Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing Psychological Safety. We are talking about the theme of the day today, which is the bloodbath that Twitter's firings have shown themselves to be. I'm sure you've read quite a number of articles about this. Everyone seems to have a very different perspective. Ideally, and hopefully, most people are condemning the way that it's gone down, but there's quite a number of people that are defending him as well. And I think it's interesting why we're defending him. I think it's interesting that Elon gets so much support that exists by default, and it's very unjustified at times. And the more time that I've spent thinking about it, the more clear it is to me that this is part of our of the same need for heroes that has pushed us into the arms of the wrong politicians in both the US and the UK. It's the same need for feel good stories that have a little bit of space and technology and winning as an eccentric billionaire in them. So I can understand why people are invested in him winning, but taking over a company and firing people overnight is not the way to do it. And what's going to happen really is you're going to have more and more instances in which people that do have some type of respect for their workforce and some type of intelligence in terms of um, how they go about showing their commitment to the new ways of work are going to actually take over and get their people. I mean, look at what happened after the Tesla announcement when he said, I need everyone back in the office. Half jokingly, the Microsoft people person said, great, if Tesla doesn't want you, we do. And I'm sure that, it sounded unfunny to recruiters at Tesla, and that people indeed have done exactly that and left. Now, the fear is not that all Twitter employees are going to leave. The fear is not even the fact that those that are remaining after such a really brutal moment are not going to be feeling horribly safe or invested. So there's a lot of rebuilding he's going to have to take on. And the reality of it is, it's unlikely he will. The type of leader that would care about people enough wouldn't have done it quite like this. And if they did, it's unlikely that he has the people savvy worthiness of it all. Not not a word in English, but you get the point. It's unlikely that he has the ability and ambition to do better and rebuild that morale and ensure that whatever initial culture Twitter had, and there seems to be evidence that they believe they did, is there and is protected even past this aggression and this moment of trauma. So what happens exactly at Twitter, is less important. What's I think more interesting is that a lot of the voices that were against my argument the other day seem to be talking about the fact that there are many other layoffs. And obviously, we know Stripe has done away with a bunch of people. We know that almost everyone else is letting some people go, right? Meta and Apple together have talked about letting people go. Um, Now, the question now becomes, is this the tech industry having been over bloated and is now contracting? Part of that is a factor. But the main driver behind this is the fact that the world is changing and these big companies need to change with it. And notwithstanding the economical bad moment we all will find ourselves in once we start feeling the monetary effects of the pandemic handouts in most nations. So notwithstanding that moment of economical unrest, the reality of it is that most technical companies and most knowledge companies and most companies, full stop, are in a moment where they have to decide what do they want to make and do going forward. There's a lot of internal who are we really, where are we going sort of conversation. I mean, look at Facebook / Meta having went and bet everything on the metaverse and going very fast that direction. Look at Amazon hedging their bets between their retail arm and the ability to supply the world with cloud infrastructure, which is probably much bigger business over time. So look at all of these moves that need to happen. Alphabet / Google are trying to figure out which of their products need axing and which ones need moving, but they've always done that. They've always been very experimental. But outside of these big ones, smaller companies have to make that same type of thinking, which is how much money do we have in the coffers? How are we going to go over this period of economical potential downturn? How do we support our people? And more importantly, most importantly, how do we create the type of environment, of company, of culture, of whatever you want to call it, of place, of family, where we are guaranteed to get and keep the best people and keep them happy. We've always talked about the magic of psychological safety in teams and how that keeps teams united. It reduces attrition, it increases their resilience, it ensures that people like being in your enterprise, like being in that team, and that they enjoy life together, they enjoy creating and working together. So that's going to be crucial. We firmly believe that the ability to do human work at the team level is going to be the differentiating factor between enterprises that are offering enough of the human behavioral lens as they should and as they could. So it's going to be a period of, yes, reinvention, but also refocus on the human side. And the reality of it is that from here on, there's nowhere else to hide. What happened is that because of the pandemic and the discussions on the human topics that have taken hold of every professional environment over the last few years, you now have a wave of workers that are immensely savvier when they look at the market. They understand market trends, they understand what's happening in the industry, they will see these changes, these shifts towards new business models. They will also see, because they're now very public, moves like this, horrible moves like come back to the office or I will lock you out and fire you overnight. Both those moves do belong to Elon, which is why I'm saying, which is why I'm saying we should sanction where he's brought himself, because that will give the wrong signal to other places and they can afford it even less than he can. So the times that companies are going to be publicly wrong are going to disable them from getting people in. And when they are going to be internally wrong, when they are not going to show up authentically for their people, when any of their employees will feel that there's no point in them being engaged because the company is not actually loving them back, if they don't feel truly supported and loved. And that these days means many things, but it starts with the definition of flexible versus hybrid. It starts with understanding their human needs. It starts with teaching them how to understand their own feelings and the feelings of others. So again, it all comes back to the same thing, and we'll say this over and over until the day we die. It is the human work that will make the difference between organizations that win and organizations that lose. The ones that win are the ones that will have started on the human work and are doing it in a conscientious fashion, day in and day out, not every day, but maybe every week, every sprint, with regularity, intentional human work with regularity that is supported by the enterprise from the bottom of their heart is going to be what does make a difference between companies that are going to win or lose. And in both Tesla's and Twitter's case, this will be a harder battle because they've already burnt some bridges with their people. But everyone else's case, just avoid making this bad of public moves and ensure that internally you've put all of your breathing effort into getting people to that place. Thanks for listening to us. Talk to you next week. Bye.